Welcome to Good Morning Norway. We bring you the latest from Oslo. My name is Akira Garza, and I will be the news anchor for this broadcast. In our top stories, Norway's economy and petroleum industry shows a silver lining with oil prices slightly increasing compared to that of early 2016. Housing prices have reached historic high prices, and uncertainty has heightened in the Norwegian economy with the newly elected U.S. President, Donald Trump. Since the 1960s, Norway has benefited from the discovery of oil and gas, and the economy is greatly influenced by the petroleum industry. In the early 2000s, there were economic fluctuations, mainly the GDP growth in 2004 to 2007 and the contraction in 2008 to 2009. After this contraction, the economy slowly returned to a positive and stable trend. From 2015, however, oil prices have decreased, leading to a slowdown in GDP growth. Let us find out what is currently occurring regarding Norway's oil industry. We will begin with Professor Z of Oslo University for our first topic.
From 2004, Norway experienced slow economic growth and contraction until the economy gradually returned to a positive and stable trend in 2009. However, the decrease of oil prices in 2015 caused another slowdown in GDP growth, increased higher unemployment, and depreciated the value of the Norwegian krone currency. As Norway is one of the biggest crude oil exporters in Europe, this was not a very desirable outcome. In the following year, in January of 2016, oil prices fell below $30 per barrel, which forced Norway to lay off many workers, leading to further unemployment. However, the depreciated krone has made it more inexpensive for foreign countries to purchase Norwegian exports and further increased opportunities for other domestic exporting companies. Oil prices will rise slightly in the near term and remain fairly stable thereafter. According to the CIA World Factbook, 2016 data reports that Norway's GDP composition were represented as follows: household consumption 44%, government consumption 24.3%, investment in fixed capital 23.3%, investment in inventories 5.4%, exports 36.1%, and imports negative 33.1%. And GDP composition in terms of its origin is agriculture 1.8%, industry 34.7%, and services 63.5%. Based on this data, exports make up the second largest composition of GDP, which emphasizes how large Norway's oil exporting industry is. The fall in krone value thus could have had influence on this data as well. It is also evident that Norway's GDP relies the most on its service industries. Compared to other Nordic countries, 2015 data confirms that Norway had the highest GDP per person. It was even double that of countries from the EU. Overall trend of the graph also shows how Norway's GDP per person has been growing in a steeper, positive trend compared to the other European countries.
Thank you, Professor Z. Our next topic we'll be covering is escalating values of houses, the current economic issue Norway is facing. Never before have house prices in Norway risen so much in 1 year. House prices increased an average of 8.3% in 2016 compared to that of the previous year. We will have reporter Yamagami update us with his latest findings from a local housing complex in Oslo. Reporter Yamagami, Norway faced the biggest annual increase. What are some of the major causes of this inflation?
Thank you, Akira. In addition to the average increase of house prices, property prices saw its biggest growth rate recorded in any 12-month period, with an increase of 12.8% between December of 2015 and December of 2016. Christian Dreyer, CEO of Real Estate Norway, mentioned that the lack of price declines are unusual, as statistics show that housing prices usually fall around December. The prices were most affected by the falling unemployment rate, historically low interest rates, and shrunk purchasing power as a result of the strengthening Norwegian krone. Oslo has been hit the greatest by the price increases, with a growth rate of 23.3%. He predicts that the market's strong performance will continue throughout the beginning of 2017, although the government has been tightening requirements to purchase secondary residences in Oslo.
Thank you, reporter Yamagami. We will resume with more stories after a brief word from our sponsor.
Hey, who are you? What are you doing?
Want a Big Mac in Norway? Only right behind Switzerland, it has the second highest price in the world at $5.67. According to the Big Mac Index, the Japanese burger costs $3.26, making a Norwegian krone 174% overvalued against the Japanese yen. Don't miss this chance to buy the Norwegian burger at this price.
And we're back. On our next topic, in the United States, the newly elected president, Donald Trump, has signaled higher interest rates, tax reductions, higher infrastructure, and defense spending. But how this will be accomplished is still not clear. With the US as one of Norway's main trading partners, how will this shape the future economic development of Norway? We will have reporter Tanaka give us her insights on this point.
President Trump's decision on denying the U.S. participation in the Free Trade Agreement for the Pacific Region, or the TPP, opens up opportunities for Norway's seafood exporting industries to propel. The main competitors of Norwegian seafood exports are Chile, USA, and Canada. But without the U.S. involvement in TPP, Norway can get a competitive advantage in a market with duty-free exporting opportunities.
We can see that Norway's exporting industries will have a potential prosperous outcome in the future due to Trump's TPP decision. Next, Dr. X, a professor at the Norwegian University of Science and Technology, will provide us his insight on the Norwegian workforce and the pension fund.
Although Norway is a capitalist country, it is dominated by state-owned corporations, embracing state capitalism. The Norwegian government and the public sector employs nearly one-third of the workforce, which is significantly higher than the OECD average of one-fifth. Most public sector employees enjoy a short working week of just 37 hours, where 3-day weekends can often be seen. Workers have become apathetic towards their job and have become increasingly reliant on incapacity benefits and early retirements, which its spendings equate to 3.9% of GDP, compared to an OECD average of just 2.2%. The Norwegian government is a stockholder of about 40% of the stock market, with large stakes in the telecommunications operator Telenor, aluminum producer Norsk Hydro, the fertilizer maker Yara, the bank DNB, and oil and gas company Statoil. Norway is saving earnings from its oil riches in a sovereign wealth fund known as a Norwegian pension fund. This pension fund is now the world's largest, at $873 billion US.
Wait, let me interrupt you for a second. With all that wealth, why isn't the Norwegian government spending that money?
There is a compelling reason as to why Norway has been saving its oil riches in a separate fund for all these years. Exposing the oil riches within the current spending within the country poses significant risks of causing long-term damage to its domestic economy, a problem known as the Dutch disease. In the 1960s, Holland and the Netherlands found large natural gas deposits, and although large sums of foreign money was flowing in, they were not getting any richer. Domestic industries were suffering, and exports of non-gas related goods were failing, while imports soared. The culprit was from the rising exchange rate resulting from the conversion of foreign currency to domestic currency, which made exports expensive and imports cheaper. The end result is the prospering of nothing but the natural resource. Norway risks the same fate if they attempt to loosen the control of the oil fund and spend that money in the domestic market sometime in the future.
And on to our next story, we have... thank you. We have just received breaking news that Sir Nils Olav the Penguin received military promotion at Edinburgh Zoo. Wait, what's this? Anytime now. Give me. We have just received breaking news regarding fiscal policy of Norway. We have gotten word that the government has updated their fiscal policy to increase government spending from petroleum revenues and the government pension fund. We now tune in live with reporter Fukata, who is currently in central Oslo, to give us the latest insight.
A government-appointed commission judged the new equity plan for the government pension fund. As a result of this equity share, fiscal policy will change as well. It is believed that the dispersion of funds will not alter tax and service levels. However, flexibility of the fiscal policy is required for flexible fund withdrawals. For instance, in the case of an economic market slump, immediate tightening of the fiscal policy is necessary. The fund is a new aspect that needs to be considered with Norway's fiscal policy. When the fund increases, it is suggesting the government to increase spending at a slower rate than with the fund. In the case of a decrease in the fund, there needs to be a decrease in government spending at a lower rate than the fund's decrease. More specifically, the exact purpose of the fund is still under debate within the government. Progress, a populist anti-immigrant political party, believes that oil revenue should be utilized within the domestic economy. It is already confirmed that the utilization of the funding will be aimed towards supporting firms that combat climate change and do not support the production of unethical products such as tobacco, weaponry, and pollution.
That was very informative. Well, if there are changes in fiscal policy, then could there be any changes in its counterpart, monetary policy, as well?
Regarding monetary policy, as of December 2016, the Norges Bank decided on maintaining key policy interest rates at 0.5%, which is the highest of other European central banks. Norway's central bank implements this key policy rate, which is the interest rate on banks' deposits up to a certain quota in the Norges Bank. Changes in the key policy rate can directly influence short-term money market rates, bank deposits, and lending rates. It is predicted that the key policy rate will remain the same for the coming period at 0.5%. Inflation tendencies that were initially forecasted in September 2016 is less likely to occur now, and some economic growth can be expected. There is also a possibility of entering into a negative deposit rates in the near future, just like Sweden and Denmark. The motive is to increase growth and appreciate the krone.
Thank you, reporter Fukata. Lastly, we tune back in with Professor Z once again for an explanation using the ASAD model.
Thank you. Now I will explain the effects of these new policy changes in terms of a simple economic model of aggregate supply and aggregate demand. With the increase in government spending from the pension fund, which is a form of expansionary fiscal policy, the aggregate demand curve will shift to the right. This is the total demand of goods and services produced in the country. This government spending will cause an increase in output and also an increase in price level as well, as seen on this graph. An increase in price level will help fix and raise the depreciated krone from the oil problem of Norway. An increase in output will also lower unemployment caused from the oil issue by increasing the demand for new jobs, thus employing more people. Since early 2016, the key policy interest rates in Norway have been 0.5%, therefore not resulting in any changes in monetary supply or monetary demand. In this scenario, monetary policy is not the main contributor for the shift in aggregate demand.
Oh, thank you, Professor. That was very understandable, I think. Okay. Today's news coverage included numerous stories and information on Norway's economic situation. From housing price inflations to the influences of the oil industry on fiscal and monetary policies, Norway has shown hints of a potential economic comeback. The future of Norway's economy is bright. I'm Akira Garza, signing off.